Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Destruction, Birth of Malice, out March 7th on Napalm Records. The album has 12 tracks, 50 minutes in length, and this is the band's 16th full-length studio album. They are an iconic German thrash metal band. As far as the design of the album goes, I honestly feel like this is one of those make it or break it. If you don't put these songs in the right order, if you don't design the album with the overall record in mind, this album is going to feel super linear because it has a lot of commonalities. The songs have a lot of commonalities sonically from one to the next. So you have to have an idea of the tracks that really break the mold, that really break that linearity, and insert them in the right pockets so that the album has ebbs and flows, so that the album moves, it feels more dynamic. Because at the end of the day, that's going to make the experience a lot more interesting. It's going to make the album feel quite shorter, and it's going to give the album the playability that it needs so that the listener, when it gets to the last song, ready to come back to the beginning and listen to the record all over again. You don't feel tired, you don't feel bored, you don't feel like the album ever becomes redundant, because when that's about to happen, they insert the right track at the right moment that changes the dynamics of the album. So great design, a design that really brings the best of this record to the surface. As far as the sound is concerned, this is a thick, heavy, fast-driven sounding album. That is nothing new when it comes to Destruction. So that aspect of the record, that sense of consistency across those three elements, I felt like that was par and parcel with Destruction, their sound, and what they've done throughout their discography. Where this album, sound-wise, feels a little bit different is on two other aspects. The first aspect is, I honestly feel like this is a band that sounds a lot better with two guitar players. And if there was any doubts about that, this record answers them all. This is a great sounding record from a guitar standpoint, and it really showcases the strength of the band with two guitar players, two magnificent guitar players, let me say that. Because the level of intensity, the level of aggression, the level of heaviness that they add to this album is phenomenal. The solos on this record are phenomenal. The solo sections really placed in not only in the right place, but with the right attitude, with the right vibe to elevate the quality of the songs. The melodies, the dualities that exist, putting a melody over a thicker riff underneath. Like, there's just a lot of movement guitar-wise, and that's never possible without two incredible guitar players on the lineup. So this album really emphasizes the importance of two guitar players, and it showcases how much they add to Destruction's sound. The other aspect of this album that I thought was really interesting is where the vocals sit in the overall mix. A very old school style approach. Now, pushing the guitars into the forefront in the overall production of the album, that didn't surprise me either. I feel like that is a little bit of the DNA of the band, and I was totally cool with that. But where the vocals show up on this record has a little bit of an old school vibe, because you feel like the guitars are up top, the drums are right behind with the bass, and then the vocals are a little bit at the distance. They're not over the guitars, they're parallel to the guitars, but they're not side by side. They're a little bit moved to the side, or there's a little bit of a gap between them. And I feel like that is more of an old school approach than a modern style thrash metal sounding album. But the record doesn't feel dated, and I think this is the fine line that you have to walk, specifically when you are a legacy band like Destruction. You want to sound, you want to connect. I don't think you want to sound, but I think you want to connect with the origins of the band. You want to make sure the DNA of the band stays true across every single record. That when you listen to an album, when you start listening to a song, you know you're listening to Destruction. But at the same time, you want to modernize your sound just enough so that you don't feel like you're listening to the same record again and again and again. And I felt like the production on this album allowed me to have that experience. The album was slightly old school in some of the elements in terms of how they were presented in the overall sound and in the overall production, but not old school enough to make me feel like this record had been done before. So that to me was something that I felt like it added great quality to this record, it added great value to this record, and really brought to the forefront a traditional thrash metal sounding album all around. And that to me is important. This genre is not one of the most popular genres right now, but I feel like there is so much to be said about thrash metal in general, and then when you have an iconic band like Destruction going on their 16th album and putting a record as strong as this one with incredible songs from top to bottom. I honestly feel like the production has to really tie all the loose ends. It kind of has to bring all of that discography together and allow this album to be in the present but not completely disconnected from its past. Now, the only element that I haven't talked about it yet is the vocals. I think this is Shmear's best performance in a very long time within Destruction. Very dynamic, a lot of movement in his voice, a lot of screaming, just a lot of texture in the way the vocals were presented on this record. I also liked some of the backing vocals layers that were used, because what those do on any album is they bring a live experience to the studio. The song suddenly becomes a live song. It feels like it needs to be performed in front of an audience, because that opportunity to sing along with the song is there, and that becomes a place setter in the mind of the listener. So when you see the band live and that song comes on, you know exactly which parts you're supposed to sing along. That is something they did quite a bit throughout this record, not to the point that it becomes predictable, but they did it quite a bit throughout this album. But I thought it added great quality to the way the record is presented, and like I said, Shmear's best vocal performance in a very long time. And when you start to put all of these pieces together, you have a strong record here, one of the strongest albums that this band has released, I would say, in the last 4 or 5 records. It's really a strong album all around, from the design to the guitar sound to the vocal performance to the way it's put together. You could perhaps look at the lyrics and at times feel like they are a little boomerish, but I honestly felt like they didn't become corny. So the lyrics had a message, and part of thrash metal is also having messages within the lyrics. I think that's really a key fundamental piece that has been lost, specifically with more modern thrash metal bands. And these guys kind of went back to those roots of the genre as well. So I feel like this is an album that is very complete across all of its elements. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I gotta start off with Cyber Warfare. I really like the cool intro that the song has. It sets up the theme of the track from a lyrical standpoint, and that is really interesting because it allows the song to feel different from what came before and feel different from what comes after. Anytime you can add these little intros, these little pieces, you're changing the dynamic of the track, you're changing the mindset of the listener. It works almost as a mini reset, as a mini interlude built into the track. So this track does it really well. It has explosive guitars, they push a very heavy and driven sound. It has a great chorus. The vocal layers in the chorus, like I mentioned earlier, really emphasize it, but give it that live experience style feel. And then it's a track that's all about the guitars pushing forward, the drums and bass behind it, pushing those guitars even further forward. The vocals nail it. Great track, great chorus, and it has a great solo section that I feel like it brings the whole song together. Next we have Scumbag, Human Race. This is a really interesting track. I highly recommend you guys diving deep into the lyrics of this song. It has a great guitar sound. I'll go as far as to say it has an outstanding guitar sound. It's heavy, but it also has some groovy elements into it. What people would consider a banger. This song is a banger. It has a great vibe. It feels a little bit Slayer-esque, I must say, but I'm okay with that. I'm totally cool with that. It has a little bit of a Raining Blood vibe, Slayer, to the way the song comes in, to the way the riffs are presented, to the lyrical content, to the way the lyrics are presented as well, because Shmear on this track vocally feels more of a storyteller, and I think it works really well with the sound approach, with the blended grooviness and heaviness that this track has. This track is not about speed, it's really about compounding the heaviness all the way through. Great track all around. Last but definitely not least, my favorite song on the album, Evil Never Sleeps. And the reason why this is my favorite song on the album is because it's a track that's extremely unique within the context of this record. There's no other song like it. Perhaps the most melodic track on the album, and I love the guitar melodies that this song offers. The vocals on the chorus really help set the track apart. I would say the chorus itself, both musically and vocally, sets this track apart. It has a really distinct fingerprint on both ends as far as what it offers, making the song very different, very melodic, very approachable. It's not a ballad, by no means. It's not a ballad, but it's such a unique, different song that brings a sense of darkness to the forefront. There is a looming darkness surrounding this song, and then the melody of the track just enhances that looming darkness that the song has. I love this track through and through, both musically and vocally. This is it. Destruction, Birth of Malice, out March 7th on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next video. Take care, guys.